This session focuses on measuring students' knowledge and skill development at Tier 1. Reflect for a moment. Why are you teaching intrapersonal and interpersonal competencies? What benefits and outcomes do you expect to see as a result of your instructional efforts? Our overarching goal is that students generalize and apply social emotional skills to their current and future lives across education, employment, and community settings. To achieve this objective, we need to confirm that students are learning the concepts and moving along the continuum of independence to becoming competent. To be competent, a person must proficiently acquire and perform the set of skills, as well as determine when and how to apply and customize these skills across environments and pursuits. As educators, we provide progressively challenging practice to foster independent and transferable application. Like learning any content, students must first acquire the skills, then develop fluency, and finally generalize the skill set. Social emotional growth measures and risk screeners are used for different purposes. As Dr. Beth Clavenadine described, mental health risk factors can exhibit at any time. Screeners provide early indicators that a student may need additional support. Conversely, growth measures tell you whether the students are acquiring skills and becoming more fluent in their demonstration of the skills. There are numerous ways to measure students' social emotional growth. Today, we will briefly go over a few methods for assessing perceptions, knowledge, skills, application of skills, and outcomes. Risk screeners evaluate broad social emotional constructs, but growth measures need to be directly tied to the skills that are being taught. To demonstrate how these methods relate, all of the examples that I provide today will assess the intrapersonal competency of self-regulation. Within the Competency Framework Assessment Suite, we have comparable measures for self-efficacy, assertiveness, and conflict management, all of which align with the associated curriculum. All assessments within the competency framework are free. We develop these measures to promote students' reflection and support educators' decision-making. There isn't one perfect measure of social emotional growth. The key is that we need to measure what we teach and monitor each student's progress in learning and applying the skills. Let me repeat that. We need to measure what we teach and monitor each student's progress in learning and applying the skills. Are students increasing their self-awareness and accurately analyzing their own behaviors and skills? To answer this question, we must consider input from students. The self-regulation questionnaire prompts students to reflect on behaviors associated with self-regulating in learning environments. The data from the 28 self-report items, rated on a scale from not like me to very like me, promote students' appraisal of the relative strengths and areas for growth related to the self-regulation components. By reflecting on their composite ratings, as well as individual item ratings, students become more self-aware and are more likely to take action to increase their abilities. A caution with perception measures is that novice learners are often overconfident in their skills. After students have thoroughly learned self-regulation, they are better able to critically appraise their behaviors. A primary purpose of perception measures should be to promote students' reflection and help them determine the relative strengths and areas for focused improvement. Other examples of perception measures include the Panorama Student Survey and the ACT Mosaic. Are students increasing their knowledge? These assessments give you the data to measure learning over time and pinpoint areas to review or reteach. Knowledge assessments also support the development of assessment-capable learners by providing students with evidence of their learning. The self-regulation knowledge test is a curriculum-based measure that assesses students' knowledge of self-regulation concepts and judgment of the most effective course of action when applying these concepts. The test includes multiple choice, yes, no, true, false, and short answer items. You can use the knowledge test as a pre and post test. A comparison of scores can provide an indicator of knowledge gain. Analysis of the results can also pinpoint areas of misunderstanding requiring additional instruction. Other curricula, including Second Step, provide curriculum-based knowledge tests. In addition to more formal tests, checks for understanding can be incorporated into instruction. These short, formative assessments prompt students to assess their learning of critical concepts. These informal techniques, allowing for immediate correction or reteaching, are as valuable as the traditional multiple choice assessments in determining students' mastery of concepts. Are students increasing their skills? This situational judgment assessment is one simple example for assessing students' self-regulation skills. This example is a free reproducible from my most recent book, Teaching Self-Regulation, 75 Instructional Activities to Foster Independent, Proactive Students. As implied by the term, situational judgment is an assessment technique that asks students to determine the best course of action for a specific situation. These assessments are typically scored on a rubric. The purpose of this type of assessment is to determine whether students know how to self-regulate in a given situation. Are students applying their skills across environments and endeavors? The performance-based reflection promotes students' reflection on their demonstration of self-regulation behaviors within authentic situations. This 4-item rubric guides students to determine the quality of their planning, monitoring, adjusting, and reflecting related to a specific task or project. The performance-based observation is designed to be embedded within authentic situations, such as academic courses and extracurricular activities. Based on observations across time or in specific situations, the teacher rates each student's self-regulatory behaviors on a scale of beginning to advanced. The self-regulation performance-based observation should be purposefully planned, as it is necessary to ensure students have opportunities to demonstrate the specific behaviors. Results from both the performance-based observation and reflection support students' personal evaluation of relative strengths and areas for improvement. Teachers can compare the self-ratings to observed behaviors, lending strength to the ratings or determining students' misperceptions regarding their knowledge or fluency. The results can also be used to reflect on whole class instruction necessary for students to become proficient at the indicator. When reviewing the results for individual students, instructional support may be necessary to augment the learning and practice, focusing on growth toward proficiency in the indicator. Another example of a performance-based observation can be found in the zones of regulation materials. As students develop self-regulation, are their academic, behavioral, and social outcomes improving? Schools collect numerous indicators of academic and social emotional behaviors. A research-based outcome of learning self-regulation is that students improve their school performance. But to measure this impact, specific short-term and long-term indicators should be monitored. School-wide, long-term indicators include grade point average, suspension and expulsion rates, graduation rates, and post-school outcomes. Short-term outcomes include attendance, reduction in tardiness, on-time assignment submission, and improved regulation of emotional reactions, resulting in reductions in office disciplinary referrals. Teachers can also monitor students' effective use of class time, quality of work, engagement in collaborative learning, and demonstration of learning through tests and projects. Remember, to become competent in self-regulation, students may require numerous practice opportunities with ongoing feedback and reflection. Together, assessment data can inform instructional decisions. Furthermore, these data can guide students' ongoing reflection on their development of skills. To determine the positive impacts associated with self-regulation instruction, it is necessary to monitor the quality of instruction, students' learning and performance, and short-term outcomes. We have mentioned that these assessments are formative. It's not the assessment itself that differentiates between formative and summative measurement. It is the way in which the assessment results are used. Prior to administering any assessment, you should answer these questions. How will the results be used by students to promote their learning and application of skills? How will the results be used by educators and leadership in my school to guide instruction? When appropriate, this third question should also be considered. How will data be shared with the student's family to promote school-family partnerships? When combined with other data sources, these assessments guide decision-making regarding direct instruction to build students' knowledge, guided practice to develop students' fluency, and independent practice with ongoing coaching to promote students' proficiency and generalization. The self-regulation assessments discussed today are all detailed in the book, Teaching Self-Regulation, 75 Instructional Activities to Foster Independent, Proactive Students. They are also provided in our Self-Regulation Assessment Suite Technical Guide, which you can download at cccframework.org. We have also developed comparable assessments for self-efficacy, assertiveness, and conflict management. All of these assessments are free, and the questionnaire and knowledge test can be administered as a single measure through our online application. By administering the assessments online, each student will receive a personalized summary report, and you will receive a composite report as well as access to each student's summary. Remember that formative assessments are as much for the student as for the teacher. So whatever you use, make sure it provides results that guide reflection and instruction.